Hello and welcome to the eLearning Author Limited YouTube channel. In this series of videos, I'm sharing a behind-the-scenes walkthrough of a recent project I created in Adobe Captivate. So far this series, I've introduced the project and explained how it works, talked about customizing the Captivate workspace, described how I group items on the timeline, shown how I created multi-state objects for the project, and talked about the advanced and shared actions I have set up in the project. If you haven't already watched these videos, there's a link in the top right corner to take you to the playlist. In this and subsequent videos, which will be posted weekly, I'll continue walking through the various elements in the project in Adobe Captivate. Just to be clear, this isn't a traditional tutorial showing a step-by-step process, although there will be elements of that. It's more an insight into how I approached my project. Hopefully, some of the ideas covered here will spark some aha moments for you, or perhaps provide some inspiration as to what you can achieve in Captivate. My intention here is to show how I approached my project. There are inevitably multiple ways to achieve every outcome, and different people will prefer different approaches. Please feel free to share any constructive thoughts relating to creating or designing projects in Adobe Captivate in the comments below. You can run the project yourself if you wish from my website www.elearningauthor.co.uk. Just click Sample Modules in the top right corner, then click the Photography Skills sample, or you can click the link in the description below. In this video, I'll be talking about the drag and drop activity I created on the second slide of my project. So, the purpose here was to create an interactive activity to test the knowledge from the previous slide. There's lots of ways to do that, but in this instance I chose to create a drag and drop interaction. On the timeline we can see that there are three graphics for the background of the lists, and if I expand the notes group we can see the shapes I created to contain the individual notes that need to be dragged to the appropriate list. With these all created, I was then able to define the drag and drop interaction. If I turn on the drag and drop panel, and click the Visible in Output icon, we can see how the pieces of information have been mapped to the lists. If I delete this interaction, I can show you how it was created. I can either click the plus button to create the interaction, which will enable me to use the options on this panel to set up the drag and drop activity, or if I want to use the wizard, I can create it using the Interactions button. Let's use the wizard. I'll click the Interactions button and choose Drag and Drop. In this first step, I need to specify the objects that are going to be dragged, which in this case are the pieces of information at the bottom of the lists. As I've got two pieces of information for each list, I'm going to create three types, one for each list. Setting up the types here means that when I come to link the draggable objects to the drop locations in a later step, I'll only have to link one item from each type, and the other will automatically follow. So, I'll click the plus button and type shutter speed. Click OK, and then repeat for the aperture, and again for the ISO. Now I'll use Control-click to select the two pieces of ISO information. Then click the Type drop-down list and select ISO. Next, I'll select the two pieces of shutter speed information and select the shutter speed type. And finally, do the same for the aperture information. Now I'll click Next to confirm my selections and move to the next step. Here I need to specify where the items need to be dropped, so the drop locations. I'll click the three lists and then the Next button to confirm. Finally, I need to specify which draggable object belongs with which drop location. So I'll go to the little arrow that's appeared on top of each draggable object and drag that to the correct drop location. Notice that the second item of the same type automatically gets linked. Now I'll click Finish. Now that the drag and drop is set up, I want to tweak the settings a little bit. First, I'll name the activity. Next, I'll control-click each of the drop locations so they are all selected. On the Format tab, I can specify where the dragged items are positioned when they are dropped on the location. At the moment, it's set to put them one on top of another in the centre of the location. In this instance, I'm going to change this to absolute so that learners can drop the items on the list and still be able to see each of them. In the Actions tab, I'll select Infinite Attempts so learners can experiment as many times as needed. And I want both the success and failure captions. I'll just quickly fix these so that they have the correct text and appear where I want them to on the slide. Now I'll return to the drag and drop panel, and on the Options tab I want to allow learners to change their mind before submitting their answer, so I'll click the Redragged Dropped Source checkbox. Lastly, I'll format the Submit button. OK, so let's preview this activity. First, I'll drag the items to the wrong position and submit. I see the failure caption, and I can now have another go. This time I'll put them in the right columns and click Submit. This time I see the success caption and move to the next slide. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to run the project yourself, you can do so from my website. There's a link in the description below. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. Next week, I'll be talking about the question slides. If there's anything Captivate related that you'd like me to cover in a future video, please do let me know in the comments and I'll add them to my future list of videos to create. Videos are posted weekly on Mondays. Please do subscribe to make sure you don't miss them.